My dear friends, gather around and listen closely, for the tale I am about to tell you is not just a story, it is a warning. A warning that will make you question the things you see, the things you eat, and the people you trust. What if I told you that the suya you've been enjoying, that delicious, peppered roasted meat that fills the air with its irresistible aroma, might not be what you think it is? What if I told you that behind the smoky grills and the sizzling spices lies a secret so dark, so horrifying, that it will change the way you look at suya forever? This is the story of Mallam Usman, a man whose greed knew no bounds. A man who, in his desperate quest for wealth and power, made a choice so unthinkable, so evil, that it would not only destroy his life but also bring shame and sorrow to an entire community. Mallam Usman was no ordinary man. He was a gateman, a humble servant who stood at the gates of a mansion so grand, it seemed to touch the heavens. The mansion belonged to Chief Udu, a man of immense wealth and influence, whose life was filled with luxury, parties, and the company of beautiful women. But while Chief Udu lived like a king, Mallam Usman could only watch from the shadows, his heart burning with envy and his soul consumed by a desire to have it all. You see, my friends, Mallam Usman was tired of his life of poverty. He was tired of standing at the gates, watching others live the life he could only dream of. He wanted the cars, the mansions, the women, and the power. He wanted to be served, not to serve. And so, one fateful day, he made a decision that would change his life forever. He approached Chief Udu, the man he envied most, and begged him to show him the path to wealth. At first, Chief Udu laughed at him, scolding him for his audacity. But days later, the young chief called him into his grand sitting room and made him an offer, a business proposal that would make him rich beyond his wildest dreams. But, my friends, this was no ordinary business. No. This was a business rooted in darkness, in evil, in the kind of wickedness that makes the skin crawl and the heart race. Chief Udu told Mallam Usman that he would open a suya business for him, a business that would make him the most popular suya seller in the entire town. But there was a catch. The suya he would sell would not be made from cow meat, or goat meat, or any other animal. No, my friends, the suya would be made from human flesh. Yes, you heard me right. Human flesh. Chief Udu assured Mallam Usman that he would not have to worry about where the flesh would come from. He had his boys, his loyal men, who would handle everything. All Mallam Usman had to do was prepare the meat, grill it, and sell it to the unsuspecting people of the town. And in return, he would receive riches beyond his imagination, 100 times his current salary. At first, Mallam Usman was horrified. He could not believe what he was hearing. But then, the thought of all that money, all that power, all that luxury, began to cloud his judgment. He thought of the cars he could buy, the women he could have, the mansion he could own. And slowly, his horror turned into temptation. His conscience whispered, no, but his greed screamed, yes. And so, my friends, Mallam Usman made his choice. He agreed to the deal, not knowing that he was walking into a trap. Not knowing that Chief Udu had a far more sinister plan. You see, Chief Udu was not just a rich man. He was a politician, a man who craved power as much as he craved wealth. And his juju man in Ghana had told him that if he could feed the people of the town with human flesh, their souls would be bound to him forever. They would be under his control, unable to resist his influence. And Mallam Usman, blinded by greed, became the instrument of this dark ritual. The story does not end here. No, this is only the beginning. For what Mallam Usman did not know was that his decision would not only destroy his life but also shock an entire community. What happened next will leave you speechless. So stay with me, for the tale is about to take a turn you will never forget. My friends, let me take you to a place where wealth and poverty live side by side, separated only by a tall iron gate. On one side of this gate stood a mansion so grand, so magnificent, that it seemed to touch the skies. This was the home of Chief Udu, a man whose riches were the talk of the entire community. His mansion was a palace, with walls painted in the finest white, glistening like pearls under the sun. The compound was vast, with a driveway so long it could fit 100 cars. And oh, the cars! They were not the kind you see every day. No, these were the kind that roared like lions and sparkled like diamonds, machines of power and prestige. Inside the mansion, life was a constant celebration. The air was always filled with the sound of music, the clinking of glasses, and the laughter of curvy women dressed in the finest clothes money could buy. These women came and went, their heels clicking on the marble floors, their perfumes lingering in the air like a sweet, intoxicating spell. Chief Udu, a man of only 30 years, lived like a king. He was young, flamboyant, and full of life, but there was something about him, something mysterious, something that made people whisper behind his back. They said his wealth was not ordinary, that it came from a place darker than the night. But who would dare question a man like Chief Udu? He was untouchable, a god in his own right. Now, on the other side of that iron gate stood a small, weathered gatehouse. This was the word of Mallam Usman, a man of 40 years who had spent his life opening and closing that gate for others. His home was no palace. It was a tiny room with cracked walls and a leaking roof, a place where the wind howled through the gaps and the rain turned the floor to mud. Mallam Usman's life was simple, but not by choice. He was a gateman, a servant, a man who watched the world of luxury from the shadows, his heart heavy with envy. Every day, Mallam Usman stood at that gate, watching the flashy cars drive in and out, watching the beautiful women laugh and dance, watching Chief Udu live the life he could only dream of. And oh, how he dreamed. He dreamed of wearing fine clothes, of driving those roaring cars, of living in a mansion where the walls did not crack and the roof did not leak. He dreamed of being served, not serving. But dreams, my friends, are a cruel thing when they are out of reach. They burn in the heart like a fire, and for Mallam Usman, that fire was turning into desperation. You see, Chief Udu paid him well enough for a gateman. But what is the well when your heart craves more? What is enough when you want the world? Mallam Usman's salary could buy him food, yes, and maybe a new shirt once in a while. But it could not buy him the life he wanted. It could not buy him the respect, the power, the freedom he longed for. And so, every day, as he stood at that gate, his envy grew. It grew like a weed, choking the little contentment he had left. He began to resent the very man who paid him, the man whose life he coveted. But, my friends, envy is a dangerous thing. It blinds the eyes and deafens the ears. It makes a man forget who he is and what he stands for. And for Mallam Usman, it was about to lead him down a path from which there would be no return. For in his desperation, he made a choice that would change his life forever. But what he did not know was that the life he dreamed of came with a price so high that even the richest man would think twice before paying it. But let us not rush. The story is just beginning, and the darkness is yet to come. Stay with me, my friends, for the tale of Mallam Usman and Chief Udu is one you will not soon forget. Mallam Usman had reached the end of his patience. Day after day, he stood at the gate of Chief Udu's mansion, watching the life he so desperately wanted slip further and further out of reach. The cars, the women, the parties, the power, it was all there, just beyond his grasp. And so, one evening, as the sun dipped low and the shadows stretched long across the compound, Mallam Usman made a decision. He would no longer stand in silence. He would no longer watch from the sidelines. He would ask Chief Udu for help, no matter the cost. When the moment came, his heart pounded like a talking drum. He approached the young chief with hesitant steps, his head bowed low, his voice trembling with desperation. "Oga," he began, his words heavy with longing, "I have served you faithfully for many years. I have opened your gates, guarded your home, and watched over your property. But, Oga, my life is empty. I am tired of being poor. I want to be like you. I want to be rich. Chief Udu, seated on his grand leather chair, looked up from his glass of wine. His eyes narrowed, and his lips curled into a smirk. Mallam Usman, he said, his voice sharp and mocking, do you know what you are asking? Do you think wealth falls from the sky like rain? Do you think it is handed out to beggars at the gate? He laughed, a cold, hollow sound that echoed through the room. You are a gateman. That is your place. Be content with it. Mallam Usman's face burned with shame, but he did not back down. Oga, I am ready to do anything. Anything you ask of me. Just show me the way. Chief Udu waved him off with a dismissive hand, and Mallam Usman left the room, his heart heavy with disappointment. But days later, something changed. Chief Udu called for him. The message came early in the morning, delivered by one of the housemates. Oga wants to see you in the sitting room, she said. Mallam Usman's heart raced. What could this mean? Was this his chance? When he entered the sitting room, Chief Udu was waiting for him, seated in his usual chair, a sly smile playing on his lips. Mallam Usman, he began, his tone unusually calm, I have been thinking about your request. You say you want to be rich. You say you are ready to do anything. Is that still true? Mallam Usman nodded eagerly. Yes, Oga. I am ready. Chief Udu leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. Good. Because I have a business for you. A Suya business. I will set it up for you, and it will make you rich beyond your wildest dreams. But this is no ordinary Suya business. The meat you will sell will not come from cows or goats. It will come from humans. The words hit Mallam Usman like a thunderclap. He froze, his mind struggling to process what he had just heard. Human flesh, he whispered, his voice barely audible. Yes, Chief Udu replied, his tone as casual as if he were discussing the weather. My boys will handle everything. They will bring you the meat. All you have to do is prepare it, grill it, and sell it. The people will never know. And in return, you will receive riches beyond your imagination. 100 times your current salary. Mallam Usman's stomach churned. He felt sick, disgusted, horrified. Oga, this is evil, he stammered. How can you ask me to do such a thing? Chief Udu's smile faded, and his eyes hardened. You said you were ready to do anything. Was that a lie? Do you want to remain a poor gatesman for the rest of your life? Or do you want to be rich? The choice is yours. Mallam Usman's mind was a storm of conflicting emotions. His conscience screamed at him to walk away, to refuse, to run as far as he could from this madness. But then he thought of the money. The cars. The mansion. The women. The life he had always dreamed of. The life he could finally have. Slowly, the voice of his conscience grew quieter, drowned out by the voice of his greed. I will do it, he said at last, his voice barely above a whisper. I will do it. Chief Udu leaned back in his chair, a satisfied smile spreading across his face. Good, he said. You have made the right choice. But what Mallam Usman did not know was that this choice would lead him down a path darker than he could ever imagine. A path that would not only destroy him but also bring untold suffering to the people he was about to deceive. The wheels of fate had been set in motion, and there was no turning back. And so, the dark business began. Early each morning, before the first rays of sunlight touched the earth, Chief Udu's men would arrive at Mallam Usman's small Suya spot. They came in silence, their faces hard and unreadable, carrying heavy black bags that reeked of something foul. They would drop the bags at the back of the shop, nod once, and disappear into the shadows as quickly as they had come. Mallam Usman, his hands trembling but his heart hardened by greed, would open the bags and stare at the contents, freshly cut human flesh, still red and raw, the sight of it enough to churn the stomach of any ordinary man. But Mallam Usman was no longer an ordinary man. He had made his choice, and there was no turning back. He would set to work immediately, his hands moving with a precision born of desperation. He marinated the flesh in a mixture of spices, pepper, ginger, garlic, and a secret blend that gave the suya its irresistible flavor. The aroma would rise into the air, rich and tantalizing, masking the horror of what lay beneath. By the time the sun was high in the sky, the meat would be skewered and ready for the grill. And when the flames kissed the flesh, turning it golden brown, the scent would drift through the neighborhood, drawing people like moths to a flame. By evening, the suya spot would be alive with activity. Men, women, and children would line up, their mouths watering, their eyes fixed on the sizzling meat. Mallam Usman's suya is the best in town, they would say, their voices filled with excitement. The taste is like nothing we've ever had before. And indeed, it was. The suya was tender, flavorful, and unlike anything they had ever eaten. They came in droves, night after night, their coins and naira notes clutched tightly in their hands, eager to taste the delicacy that had become the talk of the town. But none of them knew the truth. None of them knew that the meat they were eating was not from cows or goats or any other animal. None of them knew that with every bite, they were consuming something far more sinister. And as the business grew, so did Mallam Usman's wealth. He bought new clothes, fine shoes, and even a small car. For the first time in his life, he felt like a man of importance. But deep down, in the quiet moments when he was alone, he could feel the weight of what he had done pressing down on him like a heavy stone. He tried to silence the voice of his conscience, but it was always there, whispering, reminding him of the price he had paid for his newfound wealth. Yet, the true darkness of this business was not in the flesh itself, but in the motive behind it. You see, Chief Udu was not just a man of wealth, he was a man of power, a man who sought control over everything and everyone around him. And this suya business was not just about money. It was about something far more sinister. Chief Udu's juju man in Ghana had told him of a ritual so dark and so powerful that it could bind the souls of an entire community to his will. The ritual required human flesh, not just to be consumed, but to be consumed willingly, unknowingly, by the people of the town. And with every bite they took, their souls would become tied to Chief Udu, they would bend to his, their lives forever under his control. This will guarantee their loyalty and support during the next election. This was the true purpose of the suya business. It was not just a means to wealth, it was a means to power. And Mallam Usman, blinded by his greed, had become the instrument of this dark plan. He was the one who prepared the meat, who sold it to the people, who unknowingly helped Chief Udu tighten his grip on the town. And as the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, the business flourished. But with every passing day, the darkness grew, spreading like a shadow over the town, unseen but ever present, waiting for the moment when it would reveal itself in full. And so, the stage was set. The people feasted, unaware of the horror they were consuming. Mallam Usman counted his money, trying to ignore the growing unease in his heart. And Chief Udu watched from the shadows, his plan unfolding exactly as he had intended. But, as with all things born of darkness, this business could not last forever. The truth, as they say, has a way of coming to light. And when it did, the town would never be the same again. The days of Mallam Usman's suya business were numbered, though neither he nor Chief Udu could see the storm that was brewing. For months, the people of the town had flocked to his suya spot, unaware of the dark secret behind the delicacy they so eagerly devoured. But secrets, no matter how deeply buried, have a way of rising to the surface. And so, it began with a whisper, a quiet voice in the shadows, a whistleblower who could no longer bear the weight of what they knew. The tip came to the police in the early hours of the morning. A voice, trembling but resolute, spoke of strange activities at Chief Udu's mansion. The caller described the black bags that arrived at the gate every morning, carried by men who moved like ghosts, their faces hidden in the dim light of dawn. They spoke of the whispers, the rumors that had begun to spread among the staff, and the unease that hung over the mansion like a dark cloud. The police, skeptical at first, decided to investigate. After all, Chief Udu was a man of influence, a man who could make problems disappear with a wave of his hand. But this time, the whispers were too loud to ignore. The raid was swift and unexpected. Just as the first light of day began to creep over the horizon, the police descended on Mallam Usman's Suya spot. They moved with precision, their faces grim, their eyes scanning every corner for evidence. And there, in the back of the shop, they found him. Mallam Usman stood frozen, his hands stained red, a knife in one hand and a slab of fresh meat on the table before him. But this was no ordinary meat. The officers knew it the moment they saw it. The shape, the texture, it was unmistakable. This was human flesh. The room fell silent, the air thick with shock and horror. One of the officers stepped forward, his voice shaking as he asked, "Mallam Usman, what is this?" But Mallam Usman could not speak. His mouth open and closed, his eyes wide with fear, his body trembling as if the weight of his sins had finally crushed him. The officers moved quickly, securing the evidence, placing him in handcuffs, and leading him away. Outside, a crowd had begun to gather, drawn by the commotion. They watched in stunned silence as Mallam Usman was led to the waiting police van, his head bowed, his face a mask of shame. The news spread faster than the Harmattan wind, carrying with it a tale so dark, so horrifying, that it left the entire community in shock. People gathered in small groups, whispering in disbelief, their voices trembling with anger and fear. "Is it true?" they asked one another. "Did we really eat human flesh?" The thought alone was enough to make stomachs churn and hearts race. Mothers clutched their children tightly, elders shook their heads in sorrow, and the once bustling streets of the town fell silent, as if the very air had been tainted by the revelation. But silence did not last long. Outrage soon replaced disbelief, and the people's anger turned toward the man they once admired, Chief Udu. The man who had thrown lavish parties, driven flashy cars, and lived a life of unimaginable luxury was now revealed to be the architect of their betrayal. The youth of the town, their hearts burning with fury, marched to Chief Udu's mansion. They carried sticks, stones, and torches, their voices rising in chants of anger and demands for justice. When they arrived, they found the mansion empty, its gates locked, its owner nowhere to be found. But this did not stop them. They set the mansion ablaze, the flames consuming the walls, the furniture, and the memories of the man who had deceived them. His cars, symbols of his wealth and power, were reduced to ashes, their once shiny surfaces now blackened and twisted. As the fire raged, the people turned their attention to Mallam Usman, the man who had been caught red-handed, the man who had prepared the suya they had unknowingly consumed. His trial was swift, the evidence against him undeniable. In the courtroom, he stood with his head bowed, his face a mask of regret and shame. He confessed to everything, the deal he had made with Chief Udu, the deliveries of human flesh, the preparation of the suya. His voice trembled as he spoke, his words heavy with guilt. "I was blinded by greed," he said. "I wanted wealth, power, and respect. But I see now that I have lost everything." The judge's voice was firm as he delivered the sentence, life imprisonment. Mallam Usman was led away in handcuffs, his once hopeful dreams now shattered, his life reduced to a cautionary tale. From a humble gateman to a man consumed by greed, his downfall was complete. And as he sat in his prison cell, he was left to reflect on the choices that had brought him there, the lives he had destroyed, and the price he had paid for his ambition. But what of Chief Udu? The man who had orchestrated the entire scheme, the man whose greed and hunger for power had set everything in motion. By the time the police arrived at his mansion, he was gone. He had fled, disappearing into the shadows like a ghost, leaving behind only the ruins of his once grand life. Rumors spread of his whereabouts. Some said he had crossed the border, others claimed he was hiding in a distant city, protected by his wealth and connections. But wherever he was, one thing was certain: the people would not rest until he was brought to justice. The search for Chief Udu continues to this day. His name echoes on the lips of those he betrayed. The community, though scarred by the events, has vowed never to forget. They tell the story of Mallam Usman and Chief Udu as a warning, a reminder of the dangers of greed and the darkness that can consume a man's soul. And so, the tale lives on, a shadow over the town, a lesson for all who hear it: wealth gained through evil will never bring peace, and the truth, no matter how deeply buried, will always find its way to the light. And so, my friends, the tale of Mallam Usman and Chief Udu comes to an end, but the lessons it carries will echo for generations. This is not just a story of greed and betrayal, it is a mirror, reflecting the choices we make and the paths we choose to follow. Mallam Usman's desire for quick wealth blinded him to the cost of his actions. He traded his integrity, his peace, and his soul for riches that brought him nothing but ruin. Chief Udu, too, sought power through evil means, and though he escaped the hands of justice, his name is now a curse, his legacy one of shame and destruction. This story reminds us that greed is a fire, it burns bright, but it consumes everything in its path. The desire for quick wealth, for shortcuts to success, often leads to devastating consequences. True wealth, my friends, is not found in gold or mansions or flashy cars. It is found in integrity, in hard work, and in the peace that comes from knowing you have done what is right. But now, I ask you, what would you have done if you were in Mallam Usman's shoes? Would you have walked away, or would you have been tempted by the promise of riches? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice matters, and we want to hear from you. If this story has left you shocked, if it has made you think, then do not keep it to yourself. Share it with your friends and family, so they too can learn from the tale of Mallam Usman and Chief Udu. And if you want to hear more stories like this, stories that will make you question, reflect, and wonder, then don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell. Your support helps us bring you more of these thought-provoking tales. And before you go, let me leave you with this: if you thought this story was shocking, wait until you hear about the man who sold his shadow for wealth. It is a tale unlike any other, and you won't want to miss it. Until next time, my friends, stay wise, stay vigilant, and remember, the choices we make today shape the stories we tell tomorrow.